Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm sorry I've been MIA, but I lost something valuable to me and that put me like in the mood. But anyways, I'm back. And this one we are talking about something I know quite well again, which is rejection. Okay, we're talking about how to deal with not being invited, included, or even thought of. I know quite a bit about rejection. I was rejected by my family of origin, or at least some members of my family of origin, and then I was bullied relentlessly in school, so I was also rejected there. And as a young adult, I also really struggled to make friends and be part of the clique. So I was also rejected like as a young adult. So yeah, I do know quite a bit, one thing or two about being rejected. So in this one, I will share a couple of things that I learned about rejection. I think there are going to be about 4 or 5 things. We will see how things go. I think there are 4 things, right? And number 1 is going to be the harshest. So I'm so sorry about this, but it's that rejection is just part of life, you guys. I'm so sorry, but that is the way it is. Rejection is part of life. I mean, think about it. We reject people too. This is something that we don't tend to remember, but think of the amount of people you have rejected. I know that I have rejected quite a bit of romantic partner, people who wanted to be romantically involved with me, but that didn't meet my standard, or that I didn't think would be a good match, a good fit for me. I have also rejected, now that's more in my later years, so from age 26 to today. I am 34. For those of you who who don't know me, maybe this is your first introduction with me. So in the last decade, I have rejected quite a few people, quite a few women mostly, but also men as well, who wanted to be friends with me, because I personally, I just don't believe in being friends with men. Now, I'm not saying that friendship between women and men never works. I have quite a bit of female friends who have male friends, so I'm sure it can work. But for me personally, I've made a bad experience with these men who at first wanted to be my friend, but then said, oh, actually I like you, I'm in love with you, I would love to be in a romantic relationship with you. And I didn't want that, and it happened twice. And then I was like, yeah, I'm never going to give like male friendship time of the day anymore. And even some female, I'm not even going to lie, some women who wanted to be friends with me, but who I thought were either flaky or they exhibited some red flags and toxic traits, so I didn't want to be friends with them. So you guys, like, rejection is just part of life. Like, I think somebody said you could be the juiciest, most beautiful peach in the world, and some people still don't like peaches, and it boils down to that. Remember, you're not money, okay? And even money, like, I mean, everybody loves money. I mean, everybody needs money, at least, to pay rent and utilities and groceries. But some people don't care about money as much as, I do. For example, I'm somebody, I do like money, but some people don't care about money as much as I do, but they still do need money, right? So you're not money, you're not chocolate. I mean, even chocolate doesn't do the unanimity. I personally, I don't like chocolate, for example. So even though most people tend to like chocolate, some people don't. So just understand it. Rejection is just part of life. Now, the second thing that I wanted to share is that sometimes rejection is redirection. This is so important, you guys. Like, it's not every time you are being rejected that it is about you. Sometimes rejection is redirection. Sometimes we are going in the wrong direction, so we tend to be rejected. We have seen this a lot with people who wanted to start businesses. Maybe they start like the wrong business, so they fail in that. They're rejected a lot. The idea is being rejected a lot. Sometimes it's the right business too, right? We've seen this with Starbucks, who was rejected, I think, 208 times. It could be even more than this. I mean, imagine not believing in Starbucks, right? I adore Starbucks. Those who knows me know I drink Starbucks every second day. It's an amazing idea. I'm sure those who haven't invested in it, kick themselves every day for it. But sometimes rejection is just redirection. There are many people who have very prolific businesses, very successful businesses, who were rejected a lot at first, when they had another business idea, it didn't work, so they were rejected, and then they were able, to start another business and then be very, very successful with that. Sometimes you are rejected a lot when you're looking for love, for partnership. So many people reject you, but all of that is just meant to help you to find the right partner for you. Sometimes you're rejected a lot because you need that for your anointings. Like, if you're anointed, and everybody wants to be anointed until granted they're anointed for hard, right? I find that sometimes, many times when people are anointed, they tend to be very hated by family members, bullied in school, especially, you know, grown family members. So you're just a child, but sometimes, you know, aunties and people like that who are older than you can see the light that you have about you, and they tend to make your life very, very hard. You tend to go through a lot of trauma when you are a chosen one. I will make a dedicated video about that. So people just try to break your spirit, I guess, so that, you know, your life, it doesn't become as great as it's meant to be. So you need to be able to push forward and understand that sometimes rejection is just meant to be redirection. Now, the second or third thing I wanted to address about rejection is that sometimes rejection is God's protection. Now, for those of you who don't believe in God, I guess rejection is the universe protection rather, sorry. So sometimes you are rejected because you are meant to be protected. Sometimes you are so desperate to belong to the wrong crowd, and then you are rejected, and it hurts because, I mean, what does the teenager want more than belonging, right? Nothing. I mean, belonging is a human need. It's not only for teenagers, even for young adults. Like, we really want to belong. Human beings are social animals. We need to belong, actually. You know, belonging is not only a want, it's also a need. So of course it does hurt quite a bit when we are rejected, but remember that sometimes rejection is God's protection, or the universe's protection, for those of you who don't believe in God. Now, I'm going to share a story from my own personal life. When I was in school, now I must have been 14 or 15 at the time. Like I said, I was bullied relentlessly in school, more like as a young child. So when I was 8, 9, and then, you know, when I went to college, I mean, college in where I come from is in university. I know that in America it's that, but what we mean by college where I come from is like high school, okay? But so when I was in high school, I was 14, 15, I was rejected. I wasn't like bullied as hard, but I was just kind of rejected. You know, I was more like a social pariah. You know, people didn't really want to get involved with me. You would lose like social capital for associating with me. I was very, very dark skinned, and that wasn't in at the time. I mean, it's still not in, right? And very tall and very thin, and people just didn't like me. So and there was this very, very popular group, this very, very popular clique. And again, what does a teenager want more than belonging, right? So I was desperate to fit in. I was desperate to be accepted in this clique, but they just wouldn't have me. Now, you know, the school gossip tend to go around, and I heard of this party that was going around in the house of one of my schoolmates that belonged to the popular clique. So they would lie to the parents and say it was a birthday, but really it was like they would go then to a nightclub, what we call a boom at the time. So it was like a children's nightclub. It would start very early, you know, at 6 p.m. and would end, you know, before midnight. And I heard about that, and I was obsessed. I wanted to go more than anything else. I remember I knew one girl from the popular clique who wasn't, you know, super mean to me. I mean, she wasn't, you know, my friend or anything, but she was nice to me. You know, when she would see me, she would greet me, you know, she would greet me and stuff like that. And you know, when some people would try to bully me, she would tell them off. Like, she would tell them, you know, leave her alone, she hasn't done anything to you. Okay, you don't like her, okay, you don't want to be her friend, but you don't have to bully her, you can just leave her alone. So, you know, we would say hi to each other. I remember even this one time when she came by and had a sleepover at my house. So she wasn't like really a friend, but she was like an acquaintance. And I remember, you know, talking to her and begging her to get me to be invited to this party that I was so desperate to go to. I remember, you know, giving her some bribe, you know, some Smarties at the time. You know, my mom would travel, she would go on business trip and bring back Smarties. This was something that we didn't have. I come from Senegal, West Africa, for reference, a lot at home. So I remember giving her the Smarties. They had like a Donald Duck or something clothing, if you know what I'm talking about, and some lychees as well, since she used to love lychees. So I gave her some lychee juice and stuff like that, you know, just stuff to corrupt her, I guess, in my teenage mind. If I gave her all this stuff, she would get me invited to the party. So I gave her all these gifts in the hope that she would get me invited to the party. I also told her that I wanted to go to the party and that I was desperate to go to the party. So she said, don't worry, Manetta, I would ask them. And of course she asked them, you know, I guess she begged them, she pleaded, but they still said no. Okay, she came back to me and she said, I'm so sorry, but yeah, it's a no for them. Okay. And I guess I just had to accept it. It really hurt at the time because, again, what does this teenager wants more than belonging and feeling accepted? You know, it's, again, a human need, but they just wouldn't, you guys, and I had to live with that. It was very, very hurtful. I remember crying about it and everything, but it was what it was, right? So that happened, you know, the party happened on the weekend, and Monday I went to school, like every Monday, right? The driver drove my sister and I to school, and as I came off, I saw that something was different about my school. I saw a lot of groups of, you know, big round groups of people talking to each other, like different group. I mean, this would happen all the time, but this group was much bigger, and you know, the gossip just seemed juicier. They just seemed very, very interested in what each other was saying, and I just could feel that something had happened. So as I come closer, you know, I come closer and ask, you know, what happened? And they say that as the party, you know, the party that I was so desperate to go to, which was thrown by the son of the prime minister at our country, but at the time, those days actually, he had drunk some alcohol, you know, the son of the prime minister, or maybe he wasn't the prime minister, but he was the minister of something, let me not lie, okay? It wasn't the son of the prime minister of Senegal, but it was the son of the minister of energy or something like that, right? So he had drunk some alcohol, and you know, there were, of course, several different cars, because, you know, they had a lot of cars, but the cars that he was driving, it was him and 3 other people, and they got into actually a very, very serious accident. So he bumped into someone, and the person he hit with the car had died, and 2 of the people that were in the car, that was also students that were invited to the party, had died, and 1 was very, very severely injured, right? So at the time, I remember just, you know, not thinking much about it, because I was just so caught up in the gossip, you know, like in the juicy or really gory details, right? It was crazy, and everybody was talking about it, and he was in jail only for a couple of weeks, because unfortunately where I come from, you know, the law isn't taken seriously. So he was released after a couple of weeks, but it was a big story at the time. It was in the news later and everything, right? So I remember that, you know, years later today, I reconnected with a friend of mine, Layla, that had begged to get me invited to the party, you know, on Facebook and on Instagram, and you know, we were writing, and she was like, oh Manetta, you know, how are you? Oh my god, you know, you become so beautiful. That was funny. And you know, and we were talking, and she was like, oh, do you remember one back in the day when you were begging me to get invited to XYZ's party? And I was like, yeah, that was, you know, lame and stuff. And you know, looking back, I actually thought, oh my god, that was God's protection. Like, imagine, you guys, if I'd gone to the party and I was in the car where literally 2 people were killed. I mean, a 3rd person, but I wasn't in the car, was also killed as well, and 1 was severely injured. Like, what if I had been in the car and I could have been dead, right? So I was so sad, so upset about not being included, about not being invited to the party. But that literally potentially saved my life. I could have been severely injured or handicapped if I had gone. Like, that was literally, at the time, it didn't come across to me like that at all, right? But that was literally God's protection. So remember that sometimes what comes across, what looks like rejection, is nothing else but God's protection. Now, the last thing, sorry you guys, that I want to touch on before closing this video is that, you know, I guess it's a message of hope or a word of encouragement, is that, you know, you will be rejected. Like I said at first, that's just part of life, but you are not the first person to be rejected. Remember that, you know, in the good book, one of the first stories in the good book is the story of Joseph and with his brothers. And Joseph was thrown in the pit by his own brothers, so he was rejected by his flesh and blood. Now, a lot of you people watching this video were not rejected by your flesh and blood. Now, you may have been rejected by strangers or whatever, but not by your flesh and blood, okay? So Joseph was literally rejected by his flesh and blood. They put him in the pit because he had his father's favor, and his father has given him a coat of very many colors, right? And then at the end of the day, the brothers who rejected him had to come to him in Egypt. So sorry, you guys, I had a cold. Had to come to him in Egypt and, you know, beg him for food because they were going through famine in the city that they lived in, right? I mean, even our Lord and Savior was rejected, right? He was rejected so much so people didn't believe him, didn't believe he was a messenger of God, didn't believe he was sent by God, right? He was crossed, he was stoned. Okay, none of you guys are going to be crossed and stoned, okay? But he was crossed, he was stoned publicly, okay? People stayed there and stared as people were throwing stone at him through that. Again, that's not the destiny of none of you guys watching this video, okay? So remember that so many people were rejected. Beyonce was rejected. She was bullied, okay? She started the nickname Sasha first because she was being bullied in school. Barack Obama was rejected. He was rejected by his father, his biological father, right? So many, you know, prominent figure of today, so many people who went on and became wildly successful and influenced thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people were rejected. They were social pariahs. They were outcasts, right? So remember that. Remember again, our Lord and Savior, who today millions, what am I talking about? Billions of people worship, they live by him, they spread his word, they glorify him, they wear him, okay, like on t-shirts, on a cross, on a chain. He was rejected, right? So if you are being rejected right now, stay hopeful, stay encouraged. It can and it will get better. I know it doesn't seem like that. I remember when I was 26, 24 years old, I used to live, you know, with this woman. I just rented a room in her apartment at the time. I really felt my life was horrible. I didn't have a driving license. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a boyfriend, which I was desperate for, right? And I lived in this room and it was always a mess. It was always dirty. And she even ended up like kicking me out of, you know, her apartment because, again, my room was just such a mess that she just couldn't deal with me. And I remember just feeling at such a low point in life and feeling, yeah, oh my God, this will never stop. I will never stop being rejected. I will never stop being hated, right? And then today, we're almost 10 years later. You know, my life is amazing. Now, my life is not perfect, but it is amazing, okay? It is great. I love it. And I remember back in the days, if anyone had told me, don't worry, you know, 10 years from now, your life is going to be amazing, I would probably just give them a slap. You know, I would probably just laugh at them, or I would probably just hit them like, you know, girl or guy, whoever you are, just get out of my face. I'm just trying to survive. But they would have been right. You know, my life is, I'm in a much better place today than I was, you know, almost a decade ago. So I just wanted to give you guys, if you're watching this video and you are a much younger person than I am, you know, 23, 24, according to my analytics, most of you guys are like 24, 25, and you are going through a season of life right now, a season of isolation, a season when you are being rejected. Just stay hopeful, just stay encouraged. Know that things will get better. They can and they will get better. I know it doesn't seem like that right now, but believe that it can and will get better. I know that rejection feels personal, you guys. I understand that it feels personal, but please understand that it's not because it feels personal that it actually is personal. As a matter of fact, you know, there are studies that prove that if you enter into any room, 30% of the people automatically don't like you. Now, bear in mind, these are strangers. They don't know you, but they still don't like you. I think the study went like 30% don't like you, 30% immediately like you, and 30% feel just indifferent about you. So they don't like you, but they don't also dislike you. So this goes to show, you know, rejection isn't personal, even though it feels personal. As a matter of fact, most people don't even know, you know, most people who dislike you don't even know why they dislike you. You know, you will hear people say stuff like, yeah, we're just not vibing. I just don't like her vibe. I just don't like her energy. I mean, what does that mean? It means nothing. And what people don't understand is that a lot of the time, what people call not vibing, not liking someone, just not feeling their energy, just not feeling their vibe, is just like a trigger, a subconscious trigger. So let's say that somebody had an auntie in childhood that was really, really abusive toward them, that was very dismissive or perhaps even aggressive, used to hit them or something, and that auntie used to wear a particular perfume. Now, if you wear that, that perfume today, you are going to trigger them subconsciously. So as soon as they meet you and they smell that scent, because their auntie used to wear that perfume, they're going to be upset, they're going to be mad, they're going to dislike you if they dislike the auntie, and they will not even know that it's not you that they dislike as a person, because they don't know you, right? If they don't know you personally, don't take it personally, right? That's what I always say. But what they dislike is the auntie. What they dislike is the souvenir that they are having right now, the flashback that they are having, what this perfume, this scent is reminding them of. But that's not something that, it could be something that they're not thinking of, you know, consciously. So they could just dislike you right off the bat because they just smell that scent without thinking that, you know, that's the reason why that is. So please, I know that rejection feels personal, but please try to keep in mind, try to remember that it isn't actually personal, right, you guys? So that's just what I wanted to leave you on, you know, that word of encouragement, you know, that word of hope. Hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully this keeps you hopeful. If you made it to this point of this video, I'm grateful and appreciative of you. I'm sorry that I have been coughing toward it. I do have I have been nursing a little bit of a cold. So thank you so much for your understanding. If you found this video helpful in any way, shape or form, do not forget to give it a thumbs up. In the comment section down below, let me know, you know, what are your best ways to cope with rejection. I think that would be helpful for the community. Do not forget to subscribe to my channel as well, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow, I promise. Bye guys.